Stand clear.
100% Wild podcast.
So for all you listeners,
Hello, and welcome to
definitely not your favorite outdoor podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild podcast. This is episode number 308, and we continue to be powered by DeerCast.
You're Tim Chelsvik.
You are
You're supposed to speak up.
Matt Drury.
You just got feedback that you are not enunciating and you're not loud
That was
enough.
not it.
Oh, I just made that part up.
You're saying words that aren't real, like twiddle puff.
That's a reference to the last episode for those listening.
Yeah, Jay Gorish from School of the Wild.
Hey, that was pretty interesting. So we actually have a connection to last week's episode with this week's episode.
Two educators?
Yeah. This week we have one of Mark's farm managers, Perry Battin, with us. What's up, buddy?
Perry.
How's it going, guys?
It's going good. We got a lot to cover with you. This is the first time we've had you on. And first of all, I think you'd like to clear the air on how you got the nickname Perry Battin.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if you're going to have a nickname, you just got to ride it out. And this year was no different. I shot 62 antlerless deer, and 2 of which were buttons. So, you know, the percentage just worked themselves out. And,
What is that percentage?
Grant Wood says if it's under 5% of the total kill number.
Oh, you threw Grant Woods under the bus somehow. Congratulations.
I thought Tim was asking you if you could do the math on the fly and tell us
Yes.
what the percentage
Yes.
of 62
That's what
antlerless
I
deer with how many 2 were buttons.
Yeah, he said the math worked out. I just wanted to hear the math.
2.
2's not bad. Well, if it's any consolation, I also killed a button buck this year, and I did not shoot near as many deer as you did.
So your percentage is way higher. Mm-hmm. In my experience, if you don't shoot anything, you can't kill a button
That's
buck.
actually, you're a preservationist.
More of a bird watcher.
Oh,
He's got the best odds out of us all.
That's right. I am batting 1,000. Haven't killed anything.
nice job.
That's right. So Perry, we tried having you on a few different times throughout the season, and just schedules hadn't worked out. But it's a good time to have you chat with us now because a few things. One, we just had, as Tim alluded to, Jay from School of the Wild on last week, and you participated in that this fall with Mark and Wade and some of the crew up there in Iowa. And so I'd like to get your thoughts on that, and then later on, I want to jump into what you guys are doing this time of year in predator control, because obviously very timely for February to try to put a dent in the coyote population.
For sure. To touch on School of the Wild was something we got invited to here. It was Decatur County schools locally. And we just went and talked about kind of like what we do every day and conservation driven things, you know, whether it's CRP for clean water or, you know, managing the does because of deer collisions for, you know, highways and roadways for cars. But I mean, what a program that those schools have going on that I think should be going on across the United States everywhere. Those kids, I think, spend a week out in, you know, nature, and they spend an entire week of school outside, and each day they learn about something a little different. And we were blessed to be a guest speaker for one of the days, and mainly just hit on conservation and everything that we try to do to make the ground and land better than when we found it. So, but I mean, the knowledge of those kids was impressive. We threw out some questions, and they threw out some questions that even myself, Mark, and Wade were like, we're going to have to think on this one, you know? And it was a really special day, and really cool to see a school district doing that.
Mm-hmm. Did you wear a tweed jacket with leather patches to
on the elbows
fill out the instructor motif?
I didn't know.
Oh.
Hey, on a serious note, did you feel like there was any correlation between that and like your days and back in high school when you were in the FFA? And because I know you were big into that. I mean, did it kind of remind you of that in certain instances?
certainly in some instances, as far as like for FFA and stuff, we studied, soil and water and all that conservation side of things. So to start those kids into that, and I think they had each specific days set aside for water, for soil, and for some other things. So I think that's kind of a kickstart, if you will. And then to become into FFA in high school, you continue those things a little bit deeper, doing soil tests, pH, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Pretty cool. So, moving on past this, I talked about the predator side of things. You guys, when you work for Mark or Terry, there are so many different things that you get through. I mean, literally, you got to be a jack of all trades, a master of all, not a master of none, a master of all, because you are, in a lot of ways, a one-man crew. With you have Wade next to you a lot of times helping out too, and obviously you guys both have your own strengths. But what kind of projects does Mark have you working on this time of year? I know after a season like you guys go through, I mean, it's a grind for like 4 straight months, almost every day for 4 months. It's a total grind. So once you finally get out of the season, what is it that you guys do for the next couple months until turkey season hits?
It's, a lot of it has to do with the season and kind of like cleaning up what we had out, you will, all the Keen Omega lift systems with the blinds on them. Those all get pulled no matter where they're at. They get pulled and brought to home base at Hatch, and we clean them out, put tire covers on them, and kind of store them for next year. So that's a big project. And then we really dive into cameras, and polling all trail cameras is a few days to a week job. And then we take each trail camera, clean it off, de-battery it, decard it, and store all those things. And we check batteries for percentages, whether they're 75 to 99%, we can start the year off next year with those being reused. And so that process is a solid week as well, just all trail cameras. And when I say all, it's got to be close to 200, maybe over that. I could update you on that list because we're in the middle we just carried them all into Mark's house and starting that process. So and then this year me and Wade got a little friendly farm competition of kind of the predator control, who can catch the most coons and coyotes and bobcats and raccoons, possums. Every nest predator is kind of on the list, and also we've kind of gotten into coyote hunting pretty deeply. So
who's in the lead?
I'd have to add up the numbers. We're real close. Does were on there as well, so I was ahead of him on that number, but I think he's got me a few coyotes ahead, and I know we're both in the 70s for coons.
Jeez.
So we've been working on them.
Coons and possums seem to be the unsung nest raiders that when people think about predators, they think coyotes and bobcats. And I think, for worse, raccoons and possums go under the radar a little too much.
Yep, for sure. I'd agree with that. I mean, you think about the coons, possums, raccoons, everything has their ability for that 14 days of no fly for a turkey poult. It can't fly for 14 days. So everything can get at it for that 14. But your main predators for the nesting period is those coons and those possums. They find the nest and they're gone.
We had on one of our episodes, we had the real wild clip was a coon trying to get into the nest.
Yeah.
And that was like on trail camera, like a video of it, and it was pretty crazy to watch. I mean, or was it photos? I don't remember, but he kept at it, and that hen was really fighting him off. And then I think the end of the time lapse was turkeys, the poults. Yeah.
Which just gives you a better appreciation for like they're always on duty. There's never a time when they're not in danger from something raiding the nest or for something just trying to predate them.
And I know, in years past when Dad, when say like Forrest, really focused in on like coon, the coon population in general, his turkey population, would almost see an immediate increase, an explosion in his turkey population on the years where they really focused in on the coon, trapping or whatever.
Sure.
So they're doing the same thing right now. I know Forrest is killed quite a few coons already, and he's been trying to kill coyotes. I don't think he's had as much luck on that side of it just yet, but that's really, it's crazy to think how much of an effect they have.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I wish Missouri, because I don't think our raccoon season opens until like November 1st. I wish it would open up earlier because I always see raccoons in September and October, and they're just hands off.
When does it close in Missouri?
The end of February would be the end of trapping season. They extended it, which helps because here in Iowa, we just pulled out of everything because we're done in the end of January. And so Missouri's kind of got that extra month, so we'll probably move some stuff down there.
It's crazy to me. I don't understand, and I'm sure there's a biology reason or some sort of reason why they don't let it just go year round. But they're such a nuisance. Why wouldn't you let it go year round?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. And honestly, for coyotes here in Iowa, you can hunt 365, 24/7. So night hunting, day hunting, 365 days a year, which is pretty amazing because you can shoot them whenever you see them. I understand states that close it during turkey season and deer season, so people aren't, out doing different things at different times. Yeah. But in Missouri, there is an actual night season. It doesn't open till February 1st and runs till mid or late March. But it's like, why restrict the guys who are dedicated enough to go do it? And, be dedicated enough to hunt till midnight or 2 a.m. Sometimes I've been out and the coyotes are calling good and you just keep rolling and keep killing them. But, why tie those guys' hands for a season?
Yeah, it seems like that tide is turning. Like, I think there's more and more pressure on DNRs and departments of conservation to bring predators under control. So I think it was a step forward that Missouri opened up night hunting because for a lot of years that you couldn't do that. So and I think I'm not speaking for them, but this is just my guess that they kind of do things incrementally. Like, let's see how this, like with bear seasons, like we're gonna have a bear season, very limited, no baiting. We'll see how it goes. Maybe eventually we'll open up baiting. It's always easier to start small and grow big as opposed to pulling away abilities that you give people. Just my guess.
Have you had much luck using? Because I know like you're utilizing thermals. Are you using like the silencer centrals, the banished silencers on your guns this year? Are you trying that stuff?
Oh yeah, I've got a banish. Actually, their new Backcountry 30. And I have a built 243 and an AR frame with a thermal on it. And it's a deadly setup. I mean, you call it multiple coyotes. You normally kill one on the first shot. And then I normally just let them run and they don't really know what happened because it is so quiet from Silencer Central. And they normally run out there a few hundred yards and stop again. And you normally get another shot at a different coyote.
Nice.
So it's a huge help.
Nice.
Where do you aim on a coyote when you got them coming in?
If they're facing me, center chest, if they're broadside, I shoot them dead in the shoulder.
Okay.
So as you guys were out there doing your late season herd management, so you guys killed a ton of does, 100 and some odd does over the whole year across, mostly you and Wade, but Mark and Josh, and I'm sure all the crew up there had, some hand in it. Well, I can't imagine. Mark sent me videos like during the kind of the heat of it when you guys were killing, it might be 10, 20 a night, between all of you. And it just looked like an incredible amount of work. And it was like during frigid ass temperatures, like cold weather. This is the kind of stuff that we kind of touch on, as far as the videos and stuff, but not really to the degree you guys are doing it because nobody's producing it, you all are working and actually doing the killing and the gutting and the dragging and tagging and all that stuff. So, I mean, take us through the heat of this thing when all you guys are trying to get the tallies up and really do the bulk of the management.
Yeah, this year we didn't get the hard freeze that we normally do. The winter was kind of mild, and then we did get that week or so of hard freeze. And so Wade and I try to coordinate wind direction and farms that are decently close to each other. So, you know, say I go out and shoot 4 and he goes out and shoots 9. You know, I can zip my 4 up, get them loaded, and then get over to him to help him. Or Mark's pretty mobile, like, you know, say I shot 10 one night, he'd come to me, and if Wade only shot 2 or 3, you know, let Wade do his own thing, because 2 or 3 deer we can handle ourselves pretty easy. But, you know, the best thing I think we did the last night we shot 19, I believe, one night. Iowa had a rifle season open up, so we had center fires with silencer centrals on them, the Winchester rifles. So we put them to work quickly, and we killed 19. And then Mark, Josh, and Carson showed up. Me and Wade, you know, we got them all to one spot. And then, you know, Mark had a Sawzall. I was in front with a knife, zipping them open. Mark would saw the pelvic and the rib cage, and then Wade was in the back, you know, just cutting and pulling the guts out. So we kind of had an assembly line of gutting, and then Josh and Carson were dragging them and loading them in the truck as we were getting them all gutted. So it's 100% a team effort. It takes a lot of work and a lot of hours to shoot that many deer, but some of the farms we had this year were just stacked up, loaded up, and you know, we'll never grow food plots if we don't do what we did.
Is there any joy in shooting does in that scenario, or does it feel more like a job?
I enjoy every trigger pull, and I get excited on every trigger pull, but as soon as the deer is down, you're like,
oh crap,
here we go.
I bet when you kill 9, you're like, oh my goodness, I got a lot of work to do here.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how long does it take you to field dress a doe at this point?
I would say like normal speed, just doing it as I go, not over a minute and a half, I wouldn't guess.
It takes me like 20 minutes.
Carefully, don't want to cut them. I cut them.
So okay. So the next question I think some of the viewers or the audience might have would be, what do you guys do with all the meat?
Yeah, I mean, we cut up 9 or 10, I believe, for ourselves. We can only eat so many deer. And then a lot of local families, we donate them all. Amish families, normal families here in town. Wade's wife, Kyle, has a contact that she used to work with. That family takes a lot of them, 10, 20. And then the Amish families take a pile as well. So they all get donated. Like I said, if you guys ever need deer, just come to Iowa.
Well,
one of us do.
Can you send some of that my way?
Right.
So the timing, though, on when you guys are taking these does, it seems like you typically wait until after the peak of the season. It's kind of the end of the year kind of work.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that think you should shoot them early because they're not bred, which I understand their reasoning. You know, they could be bred with your next 200-inch buck, I guess, if you're, you know, that into it. But also, in our case, you know, we're shooting 1 deer and sometimes killing 3, if you will, because they are bred with, you know, a fawn or maybe twins or triplets. So we're trying to harvest as many deer as possible. That's our goal. And late season is just another way to implement that as killing as many deer as possible, but also B, getting all the deer on their feet at one time to be able to shoot that many. You know, early season, you're never going to have 40, 50, 60 deer out in the field. It's normally always late season, cold front, high winds. Those are the nights we kill the most.
And in the late season, it's so easy to domino back the herd. How long does it typically take until they then come back out to the food source once you shoot?
Yeah. I mean, back in the day when I first started with Mark and Wade, we were shooting muzzleloaders, could take 30 minutes. This day and age, when you got a silencer central can on the front of there, I mean, sometimes like on a big field setting, Wade would be in one blind shooting north, and I'd be 250 on the other side of the field, shooting north as well. Deer come out in different spots, but he'd have deer in front of him, and I'd shoot, and they'd just pick their head up and then just go back to eat.
Jeez.
So that's how much of a difference those suppressors have made.
Having killed so many does, especially out there on a field where other deer are coming back, I'm curious what your observations have been around how the deer that come back relate to that dead deer that's laying there.
Certainly they avoid it. Some are curious, some go up to it. Your big doe groups will kind of like get close to it and then spook and run. Sometimes they run out into the field, sometimes they run away. They definitely know something's wrong and something's different, but I don't think they identify it as danger necessarily. Okay. You certainly get some deer looking and being more aware after we've killed 5 or 6 in front of them.
Oh, there goes Tammy. Pam's down.
Linda's down. What's happening here?
One thing that always, I find interesting watching the footage you guys lay down throughout the season, the amount, and I got to experience it firsthand, when I went up and hunted with you guys this past fall, the amount of bucks that you have on a piece, and it could be an 80-acre piece, it could be a 180-acre piece, whatever. But it seems like, man, they have a lot of bucks. And watching it always seems that way. But the reality of it is that the management program behind the scenes has been this keyed in for a pretty long time. I mean, Mark's been doing this, at that level for I don't know, 15, 20 years up there, I'm sure, trying to keep it at that 1-to-1 herd ratio. So I think, it's you guys are putting in a ton of work, but you do see the benefits of it the next year. And it goes beyond that really, because it kind of helps when you guys may have EHD years, the die off. I think it seems to be much worse when you have this giant herd, so have you noticed the same thing, seeing it firsthand on a daily basis?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, EHD in some cases, it is kind of like Mother Nature taking over. You get too many deer, the resource can't support it, and it wipes them out. So definitely in that case, us doing the doe management and taking all those deer numbers out helps tremendously. Also from food plot standpoint, being able to grow enough food to support the deer that are there, and to the natural browse pressure. Like if you walk through our timbers, we still have a lot of deer, but it's not eaten out, and there's still a lot of natural forage there for them. So you can kind of tell when your deer herd's getting overrun, and also to your point about the bucks, I mean, that structure's been there for as long as Mark's been doing it. And you notice the bucks progressing, and you have every age class. And I think a lot of farms that people get to hunt on, you don't see every age class. Like, you get to see where we're at because of the practices and the management that we've been doing. So it's a benefit. That's one hidden benefit, in my opinion, to give to anyone on any farm anywhere in the U.S. is manage the herd, whether it's the does or your bucks. You got to keep them all under check.
Have you seen a difference between trying to manage the deer herd in Missouri, which is a rifle state, over-the-counter rifle state, versus Iowa, where, in general, it's harder to get tags for non-residents, and, there's they don't have the center fire seasons. Well, I guess they have that late doe season now, but you know what I mean? Like, up to this point, it seems like the conservation departments manage it differently, and I feel like the deer herd reacts differently once you shoot. Have you seen that and actually going out there and trying to kill does in Missouri versus Iowa?
100%. When I first started, we weren't in the DMAP program the first year I started, and the deer numbers were just overrun in Missouri. We had deer everywhere and lots of them. And then we started DMAP. We got that number down. And honestly, in the 3 years I've been here, we've been working on our numbers in Missouri, and not just us, but other landowners that touch us. And we put a pretty big block together too, and everyone's on the same page. And in my opinion, over those 3 years, we're growing some bigger deer in Missouri. I also think that the rifle seasons put so much stress on the deer that they naturally just don't grow as big. They're just stressed out. And you can tell a huge difference growing from Iowa, hunting late season, to seeing the deer that are pretty edgy, to going to Missouri and you go hunt late season down there and the deer are like stressed out cats that jump at a limb falling in the woods. I mean, it is insane how jumpy they are and just how weary they walk into fields and act. So to answer your question is yes, it is drastically different.
Because we, just even looking at like Terry's farm, which is in North Missouri, and then Mark's farms, whether it's the Missouri farm or the Iowa farm. So Terry has been aggressively killing does for a long time too, 17, 18 years, however long he's on that farm. But he's done it, up until this year. He was never on a DMAP program. So it was like, mostly archery. It'd be, I guess some of the best years when the antlerless season was earlier I think it was in December. It used to be in December, so after like the rut and everything, so he would kill a lot during then, and it was late season December, I think, for a while. So muzzleloader, he'd have his construction guys come up. Well, then, they'd kill 40 deer, 30, 40 deer. And then it got to where it was a lot harder for a few years. They changed when the antlerless season was, and he was doing it mostly with archery equipment and him and force, and it became harder. His deer, I always felt like the size of deer never grew quite to the potential because the herd, it was like crazy. You go on one of his fields and there might be 40 deer a night on it. Yeah. And I mean, you see a ton of deer, but it's a ton of does, and it's like hard to keep up with it. And, they tried getting aggressive this year. They got on the DMAP program. They had like something like 41 tags. And there were so many nights. I mean, they had mild weather during this period, but there were so many nights where they were getting skunked. Like they'd have 3 or 4 crews out and getting skunked, and they couldn't even reach the quota. But the deer are there. Yeah. It just seems like it's even when you have this plan in place and you get the DMAP tags, they still couldn't kill enough deer. It seems like Missouri is so different in that regard.
We had a rough go here in Iowa starting out our late season shooting just because the weather was so mild. Wade and I would go to a spot that you normally see during late season. You normally see 20, 30, 40 deer, and we weren't seeing but 10 to 15, and we were only shooting 2 or 3 a night. So that last stretch of cold weather we got in the last week of season really is where we gained our numbers. But it takes the weather to get them on their feet, obviously. Sponsored by DeerCast here. We should all know this.
Oh, here we go. Jeez. This whole show is one big ad.
That's right.
As I get older, I feel more and more like a mature buck because I have less of a need for social gatherings. I don't like crowds.
Don't mate much.
Also true. And I think about that, like, especially with one of my properties in particular, it's a little suburban. There's so many does around, and I only see bucks kind of creep in every now and again, and it's no wonder because it's like they don't want to be around all this traffic and all these other mouths and just all these other deer. They come in off public land where there's just thousands of acres of timber they just kind of dip in a little bit just because there's too many does, and they stay so reclusive, and it's like I don't know. I've got to do more to take out.
Got to kill more does.
More does, but Perry, kind of what you're talking about, like it's work. It is real time consuming work, and especially if you haven't killed a buck, you hate reallocating your time away from your main mission of trying to kill a buck to also do the management that's required to eventually kill a good buck.
Yep.
Catch 22.
I mean, late season up here, if it's that last 10 to 12 days of season and we start shooting them, Wade and I don't get home till at least 9, 10 o'clock at night. That's just a given. So just from the time it takes to gut them, load them, get them to our building, get them in the cooler, that's just what it takes to do it.
Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit, you had a really cool hunt this year, one of many, but you had one that in particular where you and Mark, it was a piece of property where there was this little bitty, I guess, a little shed or something on it, and you know, something that the deer had, you know, grown accustomed to, no danger being, I guess, in this shed, so they'd walk real close to it. You guys go in, you cut out kind of a couple holes, one for a camera, one to be able to shoot out of. And you go back, you know, a couple hours later, and we're setting up for the hunt, and here comes a shooter.
Yeah, so the 2 or 3 days prior to this, we had a Keen Omega system with a muddy on it on this plot, and Lucille was coming in to hunt, and so we took it down to move it to a different spot for different wind directions to get it set up for her hunt. Mm-hmm. And then the next day was first gun season, and I had a tag, and Mark and I hunted a different spot, but the Reconyx camera showed us that night that the shooter was on the field. And of course, we both looked at each other and said, he's there because we moved the blind. You know, it was just that little coincidence, I think, but it happened. And so we're sitting there contemplating how we're going to do it, because we want to go hunt there the next evening when we have the same wind again. And there's actually the little cattle shack that we sat in, and then there's a barn about 20 yards south west of the shack we sat in. And Mark and I were contemplating taking a ladder and getting on the roof of the barn,
sniper style,
and you can see the whole plot from it as well. The cattle shack that we sat in, you can't see the entire field. You can see about 50 yards wide and about 80 yards long. You can see most of it, but not all of it. And so when we got there, we had a ladder we took a ladder with us when we went there midday, and we snuck up there, and we're like, "There's no way our butts are going to get on that roof and be able to shoot a deer on film." And so we had Mark's little Sawzall, and we went to this little cattle shack, and there was already a hole there for him to be able to film out of, but I needed a hole to be able to shoot out of. So we cut a little hole. It was like noonish. We went back to the house, and probably 2:30ish, we jumped in the truck and sat at the end of the driveway for 10 minutes. Mark was contemplating if we should even go there or not, because of the view, we can only see so much. You know, we had a 350 Legend in our hand, so we had a couple other spots where the wind was correct. We could have saw, 100, 200 yards and be able to shoot the capabilities of that rifle. And I was like, let's just go there. We got 3 days left of the season. Why not burn this day? Maybe something cool will happen. Well, we get in there, and I just unfolded my chair and sat down, and I leaned the gun in the corner of this little shack, and Mark was putting a piece of Gorilla Tape on a tac cam behind us to get a rear angle of us. Mm-hmm. And he looks out the corner of it. There's like a split in the plywood, and he goes, "There's a deer. There's another deer." And so he luckily he finished the tac cam, and he got in the corner, and he sits down, and he doesn't get the camera but to halfway up, and he goes, "It's him." And I was like, "What?" I looked at him like, "Are you lying to me?" And so I still had to rack around in the rifle in the Winchester, and so I do that as quietly as possible. Meanwhile, he's telling me to kill him, to shoot him. I'm
sure patiently saying that.
And so I clicked the Tacticam remote, stuck the barrel out the window, and pulled the trigger, and the rest is history. It was the fastest hunt I'll ever be on in my entire life, and one of the most memorable as well. I mean, stuff like that just doesn't happen very often.
It's pretty cool. That's like the exact opposite of our entire season.
Yeah. All right, Perry, I hate you a little bit right now.
That's such a fun. I mean, that is a fun. Those types of moments are, like you said, that may never happen again, and it's so rare. So when stuff like that kind of clicks and comes together, and it all happens fast, it makes it such a fun hunt.
Yeah, and it makes you drive on to continue to go out and sit even when you're not seeing anything, and then because you never know when something like that's going to happen. Unreal.
You just got to get back in the saddle, Tim.
A saddle joke. I like it.
Some kind of attempt at humor. I don't. Perry, you stinker. Did Mark put you up to that?
No.
No, it turns out there's multiple people that make saddle jokes.
One of our rack packers dropped a comment on our on the Apple iTunes podcast thing, and they're like, "A guy in a saddle told me to leave a review for this show, so that's what I'm doing."
Yeah, another saddle joke. Anybody can always make fun of a saddle guy.
Yeah, it's easy pickings. So Perry, jumping back to trapping real quick, if someone maybe hasn't trapped before, what's like the easiest setup for someone to dip their feet into the world of trapping?
Yeah, definitely. Coon traps. They work for possums, skunks, any of those nest predators. They're called dog proofs. Mm-hmm. It's just a little canister, about yay big and about, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches deep. And there's just a lever down inside there, and you set that, put your bait underneath the lever. I use cat food with a little bit of wet dog food mixed in, and you just kind of take a stick and pack it in the bottom. And they're called dog proofs because they are dog proof. Your dog, a coyote, nothing can stick its paw in there. It has to be something with a hand paw type, if you will, and they just stick their hand in there and pull up on the lever, and it's just a handcuff that kind of pinches them just above the wrist.
That's nice. Yeah,
they're real easy to set. They're real easy to handle and do, and they're very, very productive. I mean, I think I had 20 out in a normal day. Out of 20 traps, I'd probably say 5 to 8.
Oh, jeez.
That is productive.
What's typical retail on a dog proof trap?
They're anywhere from $10.99 to $13.99. So it's, you could get 5 or 6 of them pretty easy and start going at it.
And if you have any small monkeys on your property, you would know it too.
Yeah.
More importantly,
that's a rhesus monkey. What?
If you live by a zoo,
got 2 spider monkeys, a couple raccoons.
So weird. On the coyote side of things, that's probably a little more. Well, I guess it's not more involved. It's just different, right? Like, what are you doing? Because you guys are going out there with thermals. You're not necessarily trapping coyotes as well, are you?
I had a few dirt hole sets out, but I didn't. The weather was so hit and miss, freeze and thaw, that it's hard to keep those. I use MB550s. They're a pan set trap where the coyote has to stick his paw in the center of it, and then you make a dirt hole and you put a little bait in there and kind of make an alleyway for them to walk into the trap. But when the grounds freeze and thaw so much, those traps get pretty froze up. So I didn't have set for very long. Last year I trapped a couple with them, but mainly just night hunting with thermals, which is such a game changer. I got into it 2 years ago, and it's a blast.
So are you running some sort of audio during that, or is there a squeaker, or what is it that you're calling in with? Yeah,
with an electronic caller. I have calls all the way from rabbits, distress, woodpecker, to all kinds of vocal sounds from coyotes, howls, breeding fights, coyote fights. I mean, it's amazing some of the callers that are out there these days and the things that they put on them
Have you seen a certain sound that is more successful, or is it just always different for every setup?
I would say this time of year, your breeding sounds, because this is the coyote rut currently, if you will. This is their breeding time. This is when they're, getting territories and finding mates. And so, rabbit always works good. Any distress always works if the coyote's hungry. if he's willing to come into that. But currently, I would say your howls, your coyote fights, and your interrogations type sounds that are gonna make that coyote in that area mad because it could be his territory or his breeding area.
It's a little unorthodox, but I know that one sound that a lot of coyote guys will use is Joy Behar.
From The View.
Very grating.
I don't know, she's not on there anymore, I don't think.
I haven't watched in a while, but she used
Come
to
on,
be
Tim.
at least.
So we had footage, actually it was last week on last week's episode, of Forrest and Ben were out, I guess predator hunting or Forrest, I don't remember which one, and they had one of those collars out, and an owl flew down and flew on top of the collar.
Yep.
Have you ever seen that before?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Even at night, like it'll be pitch black out, obviously, and we're looking through our scopes and our scanners. I have a thermal scanner as well, and all of a sudden the collar will be playing, and you'll see a heat signature in the sky flying around, looking or searching for that distressed animal.
Man, that would creep me out.
You ever see anything in your thermal scope that you're like, I don't know what that is?
100%, many a times.
Uh-oh. Like
He's a manly man, so he doesn't get scared, but is this something that would scare a regular type guy?
No, I've never seen anything with two legs, so
okay.
It's normally four-legged, but at a distance, it's very, you get 5, 6, 7 and farther, hundreds yards out. It's difficult to ID your heat signature. I mean, anything from a coon to a rabbit jumping around in the field, and honestly, like, it's pretty wild. 200, 300 yards, if you're sitting in a field, open cut, whether it's cornfield, bean field, whatever, you can see the field mice running across the ground. That's how much it picks up.
Wow.
What are your average shots? I guess, how far of a shot will you take with a coyote? And then what is your average shot when you're doing this setup?
Last year I shot one at 205. This year was 175 for the longest. I don't normally, over 200's kind of a stretch. I would say a normal shot's probably, 100-ish, 120.
Yeah.
Oh, it's legit.
I normally have the call at 50-ish yards, and they normally check up at 80 to 100.
So it's similar to deer hunting in the fact that you got to have the wind in your favor, right? You want the wind in your face, and you're kind of, I assume you're using DeerCast wind check just to even figure out where you're going that night, or what spots are going to be good spots to go to, terrain wise, all that.
Yeah, my night routes are 100% planned off the wind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because 10 out of 10 times that coyote comes, he's either going to come straight to the call or he's going to make a big loop and try to get downwind of you. So you got to be slave to the wind, just like deer.
One of our DeerCasters wrote us and told us that he's using DeerCast maps and the terrain feature, like the terrain map in DeerCast maps, to at nighttime, especially when he goes to a new property, figure out kind of the little funnels and the ditches where coyotes like to run, and he'll set up on those. Even though he can't really see them at nighttime when he's getting there. But just kind of another cool way that people are adapting DeerCast maps to predator hunting.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yep.
For sure.
Sweet. Well, we were just talking about the real wild clip from last week. You guys want to see what we got loaded up for this week?
Yeah, let's see so Perry, by the way, when we have guests that don't know us, we always give them a chance to leave during this section. We're not going to do that for you. You got to stick it out with us for all the shenanigans at the end here.
Yeah, I know you guys pretty well.
Okay.
That's what she said.
Okay, let's check out the real wild clip this week. I think this comes to us from Forrest, Terry's farm manager.
All right. Well, then it better be good.
Whoa.
Oh,
It's a white turkey buzzard.
man. I've never seen that before.
He's white as can be.
That's racist.
He's all white.
Don't say that.
He's just sitting there on the ground looking around. I don't think there's anything dead there. It just looks like
He's just hanging out.
chilling, which is weird.
They're off-putting to begin with. And an albino
Yeah.
one is even. Well, I guess he's not. Well, is he truly albino?
He looks like it.
Yeah,
I mean, you'd have to see his eyes. If he
Yeah.
has pink eyes, then he's a true albino.
God, creepy.
Bet
They're
his name
creepy
is Powder.
animal. I bet he'd poke your eyeballs out if you laid there
Oh
long
yeah.
enough.
Oh yeah. That's what they start with.
Ugh.
I love the eyeballs.
What do you think the heat signature on that one would be? White hot.
Oh. Can we just be done?
Yeah, I'm
Is this
pretty
show-
proud of
That
that
was a good,
joke.
that was a good thermal joke.
Thanks, Barry. That's the
Barry.
real wild clip of the week.
Boom.
All right. So we got the question of the day. Maybe Perry can help us. So the question of the day is probably. Oh, nope. You said probably. Presented by DeerCast Wind Check. Pick the right setup on your next Predator stand with custom wind animations out to 5 days with DeerCast Wind Check. I had not read that,
Really?
and we tied it in. It's almost like
Crazy.
you knew I would say that. All right. So this one's from Sean.
How much does Tim Wells practice to shoot dove and ducks out of the air like he does?
Well, maybe Perry can't help us with this one.
Barry, what do you think? So I texted Tim, and
Oh, fancy.
he
La-di-da.
says, "Thank you, laud me." Perry, would you laud me?
Just continue.
He's not going to laud me. He's just going to sit there and watch. Tim says he doesn't practice.
What?
Tim says he doesn't practice. He's like, who goes out and practices goose hunting? Like,
I mean, I get what he's saying, but he's honed that skill set somehow.
he's a really good archer. Obviously, he shoots his bow a lot, but he doesn't. He said he doesn't practice flying shots.
He's one of those guys. His hand-eye coordination is just incredible, though, because
Yeah.
and he was he's a javelin thrower in college, and I mean, like skolarshiip guy. Like we had him on the podcast not long ago. And he talked
What
a little
podcast?
bit. The one that we have, this one.
Oh.
This one we're on.
This is a.
And he talked about it a little bit, but I would assume all those things play into his ability to shoot at something while it's flying.
Yeah, he said he practices on live birds, which is to say he just goes out there and does it.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I wonder what his success ratio is.
yeah, I wonder how many arrows he's lost over his lifetime.
I mean, probably not many, honestly. He just seems like he's really ultra talented.
Where do you, I saw one, it was years ago. I think he was hiding behind a hay bale and pass shooting ducks as they flew by. And he was using flu, so it's a little easier to find your arrows in that setup. But
Frou-frou.
Flu-flus? Huh. You ever shot a flu arrow?
No.
It's a big, like, powdery, feathery fletching at the back end.
I've seen them.
They go out fast, but they slow it. It's like a parachute almost for your arrow.
So
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yep.
Isn't that what the guys that will shoot those like frisbees out of the air with? Basically, I don't know what, like discs that they'll shoot out of the air.
They
shoot
accelerate
them.
real quick and slow down real quick, too.
Gotcha.
He's definitely, when he got started, he definitely had to spend hours and hours, whether it was at a range shooting at something or practicing on live birds. Like you just don't pull up and hit flying geese with a bow and arrow.
No. Hell, he can hit him with a boomerang. I mean, the guy is incredible. I think I've told this on the podcast before, but we were at the Golden Moose Awards one year, and this was like maybe the last year they had it, or one of the last years they had it in Vegas at SHOT Show, and he won. He was on the Sportsman's Channel, and so it would have been after Carnegie Sports Entertainment, who owns Outdoor Channel. They bought Sportsman's Channel, and they combined the two networks for the Golden Moose Awards. And he won, I forget what the award was. I guess this was the first time he had won anything, after, years of maybe getting nominated or whatever. And his speech, it was the best speech I've ever heard. And in it, he talks about some teacher he had maybe in grade school or something that basically told him he was, not going to amount to anything. And if he, if he spends all his time outdoors, he's never going to get an education, just kind of belittled him.
Yeah.
Hey, he brought that lady's name up on stage
Dude.
and just like totally railed her. It was awesome. But he's actually a very eloquent speaker as well.
A great writer too.
You get that sense when you watch their
narration.
productions, his narrations. He's writing all that stuff, and he's gifted. He's a gifted guy, and it was he kind of wove the story on stage there when he won that award. She got thrown under the bus. It was pretty good.
My kindergarten teacher told my dad the same thing. Like on the last day of school when he came to pick me up, she was like, Tim's a great kid. Awesome to have in class this year. But he really needs to get involved in something else other than something other than fishing. And Dad goes, well, he likes hunting too. And she just rolled her eyes like, he's not going to be well-rounded enough. But like if a kid is passionate about those one or two things, then let him roll.
And look at the award that you won this year.
Yeah, in your face, Mrs. Kaufman. Respectfully, if you're still with us, I don't know.
Perry, I don't know if you can see what these say, but it's the You Stink Deer Season 2022 award, and we both got one. We were both blessed with one this year.
Very prestigious.
Tim, did you shoot a buck out of the saddle this year?
Seems like Perry doesn't follow along with your season.
No. Well, you didn't see me in DeerCast, right? So
I did not shoot. I saw a cool video of you in a saddle shooting does, which was awesome.
I wasn't in I was in a muddy tree stand in those.
That must have been like
videos.
Maybe the Natural Born promotion.
Could have been.
Yeah. Because you're in an episode of this season.
I killed a decent buck out of a saddle on public land
last year.
21. Yep.
Well, it's even cooler that you were in a tree stand and shot him. So,
do my best. Really, really impress people. That's my brand.
All right. What's this wildlife word?
Wildlife word. It's brought to you by Live Doppler Radar and DeerCast Maps. You can turn on Doppler Radar and watch it.
Woo-wee.
See the snow coming and jump on those frost heating opportunities.
Get out your saddle and climb on down.
I wear my saddle all the time, even when I'm not hunting.
Giddy up.
Hey, who gives out those horrible deer season awards?
Well, Don Jensen gave us these two, but I think someone here had set it up.
Al-in.
Don't worry, you guys will never get one up there.
You're safe.
You're pretty much safe. If you ever want to waste your year, come down and hunt with us for a little while.
Yeah, we'll guide you.
It's not that I sent the meme in the group page in the group text that one towards the end of the season, and I think I shared it into the Rack Pack, but it was like a cartoon. He was looking in the mirror, pointing at himself, and it's like, it's not that you suck, it's that the deer suck at standing in front of you.
Yes. I like that.
That's it.
Well, I've got a show and tell in a few minutes here that's going to partially explain my deer season.
Doubt it. Mm-hmm. All right. What's the wildlife word?
Depending on the terrain, a coyote's howl can be heard how far away?
How far away?
Whiskey.
Get it?
Who? A, 3/4 of a mile. B, 10 miles. C, 1 mile. Or D, 3 miles. How far away can a coyote's howl be heard?
Perry, you got to go first because you're the guest, but you're also our expert here. So what do you got?
I would say a mile.
Okay, so Perry's got C.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking either 1 or 3, but 3's a long ways. 1. I'm going with 1.
Yeah, 3.
That's a long ways.
That's rough.
1. C.
Yep. So the answer is D.
God dang it. 3 miles.
Based on the terrain, obviously that plays a big factor, but research shows they can howl out to 3 miles.
Have you ever, I'm sure you have, as much as you guys are tracking and recovering deer, but been on a track job or recovery job where you're like, holy crap, they're howling, they're close, there's more of them.
I'm scared.
I mean, have you ever had them come up pretty close on you while you guys are recovering a deer at night?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
Freaky.
close.
Creepy is what I think.
Beyond comfort level close.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Close enough that when I was on the track job, it was a bow hit deer. I didn't have a weapon. We had the hunter had the bow with him, obviously. And I was like, where's my rifle?
Yeah.
I need my rifle.
Yeah.
You know?
Feel unsafe.
I was very uncomfortable. Yes. Which doesn't happen very often.
I was blood trailing a deer I shot one year. It was earlier season, and it was an archery hunt, and I encountered a coyote who was blood trailing my deer. He was just ahead of me. He was doing a better job.
What are you doing
here?
Ooh, what are you doing here?
It's like, who gets the deer now?
I had killed a deer in the late season. This is maybe 3 years ago. We shot it during the muzzleloader season, and we we felt like, oh, this is a great hit. We waited maybe 30 minutes. We were doing like the cutaways and stuff.
Yeah.
We get down. We were struggling this was before we were shooting those bleed bullets. And it was before the tradition's nitro fire. And historically, I should say, we weren't getting great like blood trails. So we were looking around where I shot him. We couldn't find a blood trail. And finally, I was like, he's dead. Let's just go look, over by the wood line where we saw him run. Let's just go over there. We get over there. So I'm talking maybe 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes after I shot him. The coyotes had already eaten the ass end out of him. And I mean, we're just behind
Right there,
him.
yeah.
And so then Scott goes to get the side-by-side. And so I was waiting there. I was tagging him and all that stuff. And then the coyotes started howling again. And let me tell you, I felt really vulnerable at that moment. And pitch black. And I'm like, all right, should I be reloading the muzzleloader? Like, just
Get your knife out.
Scott left your side and you got scared.
That's right. Hey, more times than you know.
Imagine if you ever heard a mountain lion bawl.
Oh, I would leave.
Here comes the poop.
Like, all right, there's enough hunting.
Yes.
I could just.
I have heard a bobcat screech like they do in the wild.
That's
and
creepy.
It'll make your hair stand up.
Yeah.
Real like high pitch, isn't it?
Yep.
Like a scream almost.
There were like at least 2 or 3 screech owls that took up residence on one of my deer hunting properties this past year. I've never encountered screech owls like I have this past fall.
What do they sound like?
But
like when they get going,
stupid.
like the monkey sound.
It's just like a one and done. Like the woods are dead quiet, and then
like a monkey,
like like a howler monkey out there in an oak tree. But ugh.
We were hunting with Cameron one year, and a couple owls started kind of doing that, where they were talking back and he was just looking at his eyes where he was like, "What is that?
Are we gonna die?"
That's actually an owl.
Those are yetis trying to figure out who's gonna eat who.
It's weird. He hadn't hunted with me since.
He was traumatized.
All right.
Okay, so we got a shout out from Rich Taryn. He gave us 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate it when people do that. He says, "This is almost the best podcast that Drury Outdoors is affiliated
That's
with."
brutal.
All jokes aside.
Did Perry or Wade leave this?
Oh. Keep up the good work. You guys do a good job of entertaining while bringing in other people that have great insights on deer and deer hunting topics. And Perry. You also are good sports about having tough seasons and being able to show you still have positive outlooks while being able to laugh it off. It's a great skill to be able to laugh tough seasons off, and anyone being honest with themselves has had or will have a tough season at some point. Again, keep up the good work.
Well, we appreciate the feedback, Rich. Thanks for leaving the shout out.
Yeah.
All right. So we're down to the end here, Perry. As you know, because you are a Rack Pack member, one of few from the Drury Outdoors team. So we appreciate you. The Rack Pack is a private Facebook group for
Very private.
like-minded individuals.
Losers.
No,
Losers.
no, the Rack Pack, many of them actually
Most
kill
of them
stuff.
did kill this year.
Because we saw all the heroes. We were seeing all of them all fall.
I had to dive in the Rack Pack because of the Perry Battin. Everyone was just bashing me. And I was like, I got to jump on this thing. I got to figure out what these people hate me
Keep your
for.
friends close, your enemies closer.
Turns out it was just Mark talking crap about you on the podcast.
Surprise,
Exactly.
surprise.
The Rack Pack's fun to be in. I like it. What about you?
Yeah, I see great shares and questions in there and people killing stuff.
That's right. Most people. All right, so I'm gonna list out some names of some new members, and there's a fake name in here somewhere, and I'm gonna butcher that name and probably other people's names. So we got Corey Joe West. Corey Joe West. So anytime you see somebody has 3 names like that, usually they're
A fakie.
a killer. Think about it. Like all the killers in history, they always say the person's middle name with it.
I've wondered about that, and I think it's because they just try to specifically identify that person and not like, hey, John Smith.
I'm not trying to disparage Corey Joe West. I'm just
Corey's
saying.
actually my cousin.
Oh,
He's
shit.
my little cousin, and I can guarantee he's not killed anyone.
Okay. Joe West is, I think, MLB was an MLB umpire. Yeah. All right. So there you go. Wilbur Hackensquirt. I think that's the fake name, Tim.
Really? Powers of
Wilbur Hackensquirt. Wilbur Hackensquirt.
No one's ever said the name Wilbur quite like that.
Well, with these names, I always
Wilbur.
gotta figure it out. Wilbur
Hey, Mom, here's my friend Wilbur.
Squirt. All right, we got Jackson Pruitt, we got Derek Ullman, Kenny Grisham, Jake Carroll, Chris Glovin, Drew Deckman, Stephen Hackworth, not to be confused with Hack and Squirt.
You pronounce it Hack and Squirt if you're outside of St. Louis. If you're in St. Louis.
I'm shocked that surprises you, that
Oh,
people
yeah.
in different
Adding letters
towns,
to someone's last
no,
name.
they switch them all together. Because in St. Genevieve, it's Balsler, but it's spelled Basler. But in St. Louis, it's Basler, which is really the way I think it should be pronounced, Basler.
People shouldn't take over someone's last name like that.
Look,
Well,
I don't know what to tell you.
Derek Ullman, you are the fake individual. Sorry about that.
Well, Perry, this was your first time on this here show, wasn't it?
Yep.
Is it everything you hoped it would be?
It is beyond.
I thought we had Perry on before.
No, we've tried getting him on like 2 or 3 times. The last time, I think Mark canceled his
Saved
day
him?
for him and sent him somewhere. And yeah, every time I told Tim that every time we are scheduled to have you on, like then I see you on Working Class or on Wired to Hunt or on. I'm like, God dang it, Perry!
People don't want to hear from him now. They already know what he's going to say.
I just literally was it yet? No, it was the end of last week. I was like, you'll never believe this. I just saw Perry on Wired to Hunt.
He's a man in demand. What can we say?
I think the last 2 times we tried to get on was during season, and
That's tough.
had the day open, and then plans change. You got to go move a blind or mow some corn or whatever it is we got to do. So
Yeah,
Well,
it happens.
We understand because you guys actually kill stuff up there. So
blame that on MD.
yeah, the
Yeah.
mad scientist.
Well, somebody was killing something on my piece of dirt. I'm supposed to be the only person hunting. That's why we have this. This is not a victory arrow here. This is a trespasser's arrow.
And it's heavy.
It's definitely
Like
heavy.
Like ranch fairy heavy.
Yes. Yes. And I found this out pulling trail cameras, and it was well onto my side of the property.
How many days does it take you to pull trail cameras?
An
hour.
Right. Depends on how fast I'm walking. But there was meat and there was hair on the broadhead, unfortunately. So I don't know what this individual killed or wounded, or how much intrusion he or she committed, but kind of frustrating.
Huge.
Yeah.
Timmy! 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 Timmy!
It wasn't you, Perry, was it?
You think that person was walking through your woods like, Timmy.
Screw this guy's season.
It wasn't me.
If he was saying that, then I say let him have whatever deer he shot.
That's creative.
He earned it.
I don't think so, Tim.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, Perry, thanks for putting up with the shenanigans, buddy.
Heck yeah, guys, had fun.
I think Perry would be a great on-set addition, like a co-host. It's a shame you live so far away because it would be fun to have Perry as like a regular co-host on the set.
Yeah. You hear from someone that kills stuff?
Yeah, like good. You got free advice that you're giving out, but he's giving out good advice.
Useful. We never promised that people are going to find useful things on this show.
That's right.
Just that we'll say things.
All right,
Well,
Perry.
if I'm ever buzzing back home, maybe I can jump in on it in person.
Let's do it, man.
Do it. That'd be awesome.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, good luck with the rest of the predator hunting here in February in Missouri and whatever else you're up to. And next up is turkey season. Well, next up shed season, I guess, and then turkey season.
Turkeys, they can keep the horns.
You know what? Have you guys noticed that most of your deer are shed up there or not?
No, we got a lot holding yet. I actually found the second shed yesterday, and it might be the biggest one of the season. It's a large one.
Uh-oh. Well, text me a picture. Don't text Tim, though.
Okay.
I like to see pictures.
I'll text him an edited picture, and I'll...
Don't send him a tick pic.
Redact it. The earliest I ever got a tick in Missouri was February 9th. It's like, man,
That's pretty early.
sleep. It is.
That is early. That's rough.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks,
All right,
Barry.
see you, buddy.
too.
Till next
See ya.
time. Peace out.
DeerCast is now supercharged with maps. Get ahead of your game with killer new features like live Doppler radar, wind check out to 5 days, virtual rain gauges, GPS path tracking, and more. Plus, get our 14-day revolutionary DeerCast prediction and access to DeerCast Track. Prep, predict, and pursue with DeerCast.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV was brought to you by Leupold.